how I went from 35K to 500K in 14 months, and here's exactly how. 5 years ago, I was making 35K in a help desk role and driving Uber Eats at 2 a.m. just to make ends meet. At the time, I had a college degree and 3 certifications, but I was still broke, overworked, and stuck. And everything started to change. On July 21st, 2023, I landed my first AWS cloud engineer role, making $135,000 a year. Less than a year later, on May 3rd, 2024, I finally hit my milestone, earning $500,000 a year, working multiple contract positions. And by August 8th, 2025, at just 28 years old, I officially retired my 9 to 5. And the crazy part is that none of the things I thought would get me here actually mattered. The degree didn't do it, the certifications didn't do it. What changed everything was completely shifting how I thought about my career and what skills actually mattered. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what changed in my thinking, the specific habits I developed, and the real steps I took to go from broke and stuck to making $500,000 in tech. About 5 years ago, I was stuck. I was making $35,000 a year in a help desk role, barely scraping by, and I'd be out at 2 a.m. driving Uber Eats just to cover my bills. It honestly did not make any sense to me. I had a college degree that was worth $70,000, 3 IT certifications, and I was doing everything people said I was supposed to do. I studied hard, I passed my A+, my Security Plus, and my AWS CCP, and I just kept on chasing the next thing. But when I went for Security Plus, I failed not once, not twice, but 4 times. Each time, I thought maybe this would finally be the thing that unlocked the next level in my career. But nothing changed. I remember applying for a cloud support role that I really wanted, and I felt like I finally checked all the boxes. A week later, I got the rejection email. Then I went on LinkedIn and saw someone I used to work with, no degree, no certifications, posted that they had just gotten hired for that exact same role. That moment hit me hard. I realized then, credentials don't create opportunity, skills, results, and leverage do. That was my wake-up call. I stopped chasing pieces of paper and started focusing on learning how to solve real problems, the kind of problems companies actually pay top dollars for. The single shift changed everything for me. From that point on, I started building real-world projects, documenting my process, and positioning myself as someone who can deliver outcomes, not just someone with credentials. That's what led to my first AWS cloud engineer role, making $135,000 a year, and eventually to making $500,000 a year and walking away from my 9 to 5 entirely. For years, I thought the key to success in tech was stacking certifications. That's what everyone online was saying. Get more certs, collect badges, and level up. But the truth hit me in the gut one day. I was sitting in an interview for a cloud role I really wanted. I had just finished listing my certifications. I honestly thought I was killing the interview. Then the hiring manager leaned back in his chair, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "Kyle, these are great, but can you tell me a time you've actually deployed something in AWS?" And I froze. I had studied AWS inside and out. I could tell you what an EC2 stood for, what S3 did, and the theory behind IAM policies, but I never actually built anything. Then it clicked. Companies don't pay for knowledge. They pay for results. They don't hire the person with the most certifications. They hire the person who can solve their problems from day one. I walked out of that interview embarrassed, but also inspired, because in that moment, I finally understood why I was stuck. All my time was going through memorizing answers, but not building anything that mattered. Now, let me show you what I mean. So if you look, you'll notice something interesting about all of these positions. Each one of them pays 6 figures a year for a cloud engineer, but look at this required section. Look at the experience that they're asking you to have, and then look at the nice to have section. You see the difference? The degree and certification are optional, but skills and experience are not. That's when I stopped obsessing over credentials and started mastering the skill of proving that I could do the job I was hired for. After interviewing with multiple companies and eventually landing my first cloud role, I realized there are only 3 things that actually mattered when aiming for these top 6-figure positions. Number 1, can you solve real problems? Not in theory, but in a real environment. Can you deploy an application, set up infrastructure using Terraform? Can you troubleshoot when issues arise and make things work under pressure? Number 2, can you communicate technical concepts clearly? It's not enough to know what Terraform does, but can you explain why you would even use it in your environment? Number 3, can you prove you can do the work from day one? That means showing working projects, GitHub repos, and documentation that proves you've done this before. Certifications don't show any of these. They prove that you can memorize, but not that you can execute. After that aha moment, I made a decision. I wasn't going to study for certification until I can prove I can do the work. The first project I built was an end-to-end web application, a simple 2-tier app with a front end, backend, and database deployed entirely on AWS. I used Terraform to automate the infrastructure. I set up CI/CD with Jenkins and containerized the application with Docker. So why did I choose this project? Because it forced me to touch all the key services companies were asking for: EC2, S3, IAM, RDS, ECS, and networking. And for the first time, I could actually show my work instead of just talking about what I studied. That one project changed everything for me. It gave me something real to talk about in interviews, and more importantly, it gave me confidence. It made companies see me as someone who could deliver value and not just someone who passed the test. That mindset shift from chasing credentials to solving problems is what transformed my entire career. Once I started focusing on what I could build instead of what I could memorize, doors started opening that I didn't even know existed. And that's exactly what I teach my students today: how to stop waiting for permission, stop chasing certifications, and start building results that companies cannot ignore. Now, if you're an IT professional stuck making anywhere from 40 to 60K and want to land a $130,000 or more AWS cloud engineer role in the next 3 to 12 months, I help people make this transition using hands-on projects, mentorship, and a proven job placement system. Plus, you do not make 10 times your investment after getting a job. You get your money back, no questions asked. Just click the first link in the description below to get started. But first, let's get back to the video. After that interview wake-up call, I made a commitment. I wasn't just going to study for exams just to add letters to my name. From that day forward, I was going to build real things that solves real problems. So instead about reading about an EC2, I spun one up. Instead of just memorizing what Terraform does, I use it to build infrastructure. Instead of just watching tutorials on CI/CD, I created my own pipelines with different tools like Jenkins, GitHub Actions, GitLab CI. My projects weren't perfect at first, but that was the point. I started building like an engineer and not a student. Each project solved a real-world business problem: automating AWS infrastructure provisioning using Terraform, deploying containerized applications on ECS and EKS, implementing monitoring with CloudWatch and alerting with SNS, securing deployments with IAM, KMS, and security groups. Little by little, I was building the same systems Fortune 500 companies use every day. And once I had those projects, everything changed because now I had proof. The next challenge was simple: how do I get companies to actually see this? That's when I realized LinkedIn isn't just a resume site, it's a search engine. So I optimized my profile the same way you'd optimize a website for SEO. Within weeks, recruiters started reaching out, not because I had new certifications, but because I was showing them proof that I can actually do the job. So let me show you what I mean. Here's my LinkedIn before versus after. The difference was night and day. Within weeks, recruiters started reaching out, not because I had new certifications, but because I was showing them proof that I could do the job. Now, I wish I could tell you it was smooth sailing from here, but it wasn't. Before landing my first cloud role, I failed over 10 interviews. The first one I did was brutal. The interviewer asked me to explain how I handle an EC2 instance running out of space. I froze because I knew the theory, but I never faced that problem in a live environment. That's when I realized knowledge without context is useless. Fast forward a few months, I was at another interview for a similar role. This time the interview asked the same question, but now I was smiling on the inside because just the week before, I had run into that exact same issue while testing one of my projects. So instead of just guessing, here's what I said. When I ran into this issue, I resized the EBS volume, extended the partition in the operating system, and updated the CloudWatch metric to alert before it hit 80% again. He paused and said, "That's exactly what we do here. I got the job." The only difference was that now I wasn't just speaking from memory, I was speaking from experience. That's the moment I knew companies don't want textbook answers. They want proof that you can solve their problems. My projects became my resume, my LinkedIn became my storefront, and my interview became conversations, not interrogations. That shift from studying to building, from guessing to proving, took me from 35K and driving Uber Eats at 2 a.m. to landing my first AWS cloud engineer role at $135,000 a year, then scaling up to $500,000 a year and retiring my 9-to-5 before I turned 29. When I look back at where I started, it honestly blows my mind. 5 years ago, I was making 35K a year in a help desk role, working overtime, exhausted, and still driving Uber Eats at 2 a.m. just to make ends meet. At that time, I could not see a way out. Then everything changed. On July 21st, 2023, I landed my first AWS cloud engineer role and my salary jumped to $135,000 a year. That was the first time I realized I don't have to struggle to make a living doing what I love. Less than a year later, on May 3rd, 2024, I finally hit my long-term goal of making $500,000 a year in tech. And by August 8th, 2025, at 28 years old, I officially retired my 9-to-5. And here's the part that really matters: how life actually feels different right now. I stopped driving Uber Eats, I paid off my debt, I moved into a place that I love, I took my first real vacation without worrying about my work phone. I was able to help out my family financially in ways I never thought possible. And most importantly, I finally got my time back. Now I work when I want, where I want, doing projects that actually excites me. No micromanaging, no clocking in, no asking for permission to live life. That's what financially freedom looks like to me. It's not just about the money, but the control and the ability to decide how your day goes. And here's the truth and what I want you to walk away with. I'm not special. I didn't have connections. I didn't work for Google. The companies hiring for six-figure cloud engineer roles, DevOps roles today do not care about your background. They don't care if you went to college. They don't care if you have a fancy title. They care about one thing. Can you do the job? If you can build, deploy, and solve real-world problems, you can win. If you're willing to stop chasing credentials and ready to start building solutions, this same path is wide open for you. Whether you're making 35, 55, or even starting from zero. Because in the world we live in today, results beats resume every single time. You can keep following the traditional path of college degrees and certifications, hoping something changes, or you can do what I did. Shift your focus to building real skills, creating hands-on projects, and positioning yourself as someone who can actually do the job. I've now helped hundreds of people make this same transition, going from stuck in low-paying IT roles to landing $120,000 to $150,000 cloud engineer positions in as little as 3 to 9 months. So if you want to work with me to make this transition using my proven system, which includes hands-on projects, mentorship, and job placement support, click the first link in the description below, and I'll see you in the next video.